your favorite director or like one of your favorite directors of all time is Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
I have seen all of his movies now except for Spartacus.
Me too.
I like to start with his filmography with like The Killing and then move on because that's like when he was kind of like was with it. You know, like his first two movies, they're kind of like scrappy. Blah, blah,
Was it like
Fear and Desire
yeah, Fear
and
and
Killer's
Desire.
Kiss?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, those are kind of more like amateur, juvenile, and then like The Killing is like really when he had like a foothold as like a storyteller.
Yeah.
And then Paths of Glory, Spartacus, and then Lolita.
Yeah.
Which is the movie we're going to be talking about today. Written for the screen by Stanley Kubrick and directed by Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
Based on the book Lolita by Ernest Hemingway.
No, some Russian dude. I mean, not far off, dude, because Ernest Hemingway was kind of creepy dude, but this is a very, touchy subject. At the time this came out, I believe it was like in the 40s.
The book? Or you're talking about the movie?
The book, the book itself, like, it was very, very divisive. Labeled as pornography, banned in so many different countries. Didn't make its way into the US until, I believe, 1954, and then the UK in, like, 1956 or something, but banned, blocked, everywhere. They were like, this is because of the topic. Stanley Kubrick saw this, and apparently, I haven't read it, but apparently it's a really well-written book. And that's, like, the key to it all. It was like...
Well, it's a really well-written movie and a really well-done movie, too. So.
It is, exactly. And so I think they saw beyond just, like, what everyone's trying to censor to, like, what's at the heart of the story. And they're like, we fucking have to make this. Mm-hmm. So he was originally working with Marlon Brando on this movie, One-Eyed Jack. And he was fired from it.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm going to go and I'm going to make Lolita. And then he actually got called by Kirk Douglas to make Spartacus, and so he made Spartacus and then he made Lolita, but he was already planning to make Lolita and had the rights to it before Spartacus. I believe this is like his first movie where he goes to the UK to work out of Hollywood.
Yeah.
So this is after Spartacus, he leaves Hollywood, goes to the UK. Most of the shots are shot on location in England or something. Mm. It's a really touchy subject. The seduction and the
trigger warning.
Yeah, and very much trigger warning, and the like relationships of like someone who's of age and like underage, you know.
And the thing, it's not like graphic or anything. It's very much implied. It's never explicitly said that this is what is actually going on. You just kind of it's all inferred and implied. And yeah, I mean, this was still during the Haze Code. You couldn't show anything. Couldn't show like. At most, like, they, like, touch each other's hands or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's very much implied, this relationship between an older man and a fucking 14-year-old girl, dude. Come on, bro.
In the book, she's 12. But in the movie, she's 14. And the actress is actually 14. You know what Stanley Kubrick said after he made the movie was, if I had known how much censorship they would force upon me for this movie, I wouldn't have made it.
Yeah, well, it's crazy that he said that like 10 years before A Clockwork Orange came out, because Lolita during the 70s is a very different looking movie than Lolita in 1961 during the Haze Code. So Lolita stars James Mason, and he's a British fella who moves to New Hampshire to write some books or something. Mm-hmm. And
he's like an author.
He's an author. He's this charming little British motherfucker. And he goes to New Hampshire to write a book. And he stays with this woman and her 14-year-old daughter, Lolita. And while he's staying there, the mother becomes so infatuated with the man because he takes such good care of Lolita, and he cares for her. And he's not interested in the mom at all. He's just interested in the young girl. But that makes her even more and more attracted to him. Yeah. Even though he doesn't give a fuck about her. But eventually what happens is, like, Lolita keeps misbehaving, so the mother decides to send her off to camp. And while she's at camp, I guess he decides to marry her so that he can probably stay in Lolita's life. I mean, that was his motivation.
Well, yeah, dude, right off the bat, from the moment this movie starts, you know, he's kind of like, you know, mild-mannered guy. You meet him, he's like an author, he's looking for a place to stay, a room in this, like, idyllic suburbs. You know, he doesn't really give a fuck. Like, he's kind of like shopping around for like a place to stay. And then when they're showing the house, he sees Lolita, and you know right off the bat, dude, he's obsessed with her. Like, the only reason he agrees to stay there is because he's obsessed with this young girl. And you know right off the bat, it's insinuated that he is attracted to her. Of course, when the mother offers to marry him and stuff, he's obviously, like, taking that as an opportunity. Like, all his schemes and everything are to get with Lolita. Like, he just needs to stay with Lolita. And it's this weird obsession that, like, drives the movie forward.
Yeah, he sees her, like, really dolled up in a bathing suit. You know, she's, like, sunglasses, great hair, good hat. Like, she's, like, basically, like, a young woman. And he sees her, and she looks really good to him, you know?
Yeah, but that's kind of what the producer and Stanley Kubrick were talking about when they cast... what is it? Something Linden? Sarah Linden or something? Who plays Lolita. They said that, you know, she's 14, but she looks older than she is.
Yeah.
And that was what they were trying to do with the audience. Was like, she becomes this object of desire for the audience too. And like this, like, kind of like perverse storyline between them is like, you feel like it's like you're taking part in this story. It's like, what does that say about our society as a whole? I don't know. That was interesting.
So basically, the mother sends Lolita away to a camp or boarding school because she misbehaves, and James Mason decides to marry the mother. And then while she's away, the mother grows like really suspicious of James Mason and stuff, and is wondering why he doesn't like really love her as much as he should as a married couple, as a married man. And then she decides he first plots a way to fucking murder her, first of all, because he can't deal with it.
Yeah.
But then she just ends up running in front of a car and killing herself.
Yeah. Luckily for him.
Yeah. So then and that's interesting because the person who hits Lolita's mom is like thinking that he's gonna get like sued or press charges by James Mason, but then he's like, oh no, it's fine.
Yeah.
No, it was not your fault at all.
Like, dude,
you hit my wife and you killed her, but whatever.
Everyone like comes to James Mason, they're like, hey, she was a great woman. And he's like, she was. I'm so sorry, you must be going through a lot. Me? Yeah, well, I think I'm fine. And they're like, you know, like, he's just like totally like fucking fine with it. It's like, he just shows you how creepy he is. Like how, like, I don't know, just like disconnected he is from like any kind of emotion. He's just so obsessed with like Lolita. There's something so off about this character that's like supposed to be our narrator. I love that, like, that we are forced to follow this guy, and we're forced to follow all these like terrible characters throughout this movie. Like, no one's good, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And then he finally gets her back from the camp, and she's living with him, and she starts to kind of gain popularity at her school, and she's wants to be in the dance, but he won't allow it because he's so jealous, you know? And then we have to mention the character that character that Peter Sellers play, because that's a really trippy part of this movie.
That's a big mention. Peter Sellers is in this movie from the first scene.
Yeah.
Claire Quincy, so he plays.
Yeah, and that's an interesting guy. We can't really get too much of the details because it'd be like kind of spoiler-ish, but he's like in the movie sometimes, and he plays like a different character, but you kind of find out this guy's just undercover. It's really, really trippy, bro.
I fucking love Peter Sellers, dude. I went on such a Peter Sellers kick this week, and he's so good. Oh my god.
Yeah, and there's that scene with him where they're at the hotel at the cop conference, and he's telling him, he's like, I'm a really normal guy. Maybe you're a normal guy. Maybe we can hang out like normal guys. And being a fucking weirdo, dude.
Yeah, he's like, would you say a couple of normal guys could, hang out and have a normal chat? Hey, what do you say? We get breakfast tomorrow and we have a little normal chat. Would you be up for that?
Yeah. That's kind of as far as I'll go into the details of the story, but it was a really trippy yet interesting film. And, you know, it's black and white in like 2.5 hours. You know, it's a long movie, but you definitely go on like this sort of interesting journey.
You go on a journey, and it's handled with the Kubrick touch for sure, where it's just this, you know, the mise-en-scène is all there. Yeah. And
it's such a weird story to tell, but Kubrick was always
it's not like roses or anything like that. It's like kind of a gross story, but the craft of like both the storytelling and like the filmmaking are just so top notch. Like they're in the hands of like a master at work, you know. So it was really good. It was really, really good. I'll say that. And not really my favorite Kubrick film, but definitely like really happy that I saw it. That's it. It's in his filmography.
I'm probably not going to jump to watch it again for a while, like I would with other Kubricks I saw. But it's a good movie. It's good. Like I liked watching it. It was trippy. The storytelling is good, and yeah, it's a very linear story.
Yeah,